Hello. Hello, everybody. This is Vikram. I am the product leader for Amazon Lex. We just went GA this morning, and we've been in preview for a few months now. Thank you. Thank you. So in this session, we'll talk about what Lex can do, what are the capabilities that we've added, as well as we have a couple of our customers here who are going to come up on stage and talk about how they're using Amazon Lex. So why did we build Lex? What is Amazon Lex? And we'll take you through how you can build a conversational app using Amazon Lex. So over the past many years, the way we communicate with computers has been evolving, right? So the earliest forms of communication where you completely adjust to what the computer can do, right? So you would use punch cards, memory registers, so on. And then there was kind of a compromise where you could do both pointers, sliders, the UI-based applications. Now there's a third generation where the computer adjusts to how humans converse and communicate, and that's the conversational interfaces. And when we talk about conversational interfaces, developers face a lot of challenges while building these. What are those challenges? How do you do speech recognition? How do you understand what the customers are saying? How do you make sure these applications are secure? How do you make sure they scale? How do you deploy them onto multiple platforms? Where do you run your business logic? How do you integrate all this together? And that's why we built Amazon Lex, a new service for building conversational interfaces using both voice and text. Lex is a complete solution. So right from speech recognition, language understanding, dialogue management, deployment onto multiple platforms, scaling, running your business logic, security, analytics in order to keep improving your conversational app. It has everything in one place. Here are some of the features that we have with Lex. The text and speech language understanding that it provides is the same technology that powers Alexa. So you get really high quality speech recognition as well as language understanding. Build once and deploy to multiple platforms. You don't have to keep adjusting your bot to many different platforms. You can just build it on Lex, and we provide you the integrations to various platforms as well as SDKs. It's designed for builders. We'll be taking a look at our user interface. A lot of customers have given us feedback that it's really easy to use, and it's very simple and intuitive. So you can quickly use that to build your bots and deploy them. And if you're interested in using SDKs, we have that as well, because we understand that once you get to a certain scale, you want to operate using SDKs. Enterprise ready. We have connectors to various SaaS applications like Salesforce, QuickBooks, and so on, using which you can build enterprise chatbots. Continuous learning. Once you build a bot, you want to measure how it's doing, how customers are using it, what capabilities are customers using, whether the bot's understanding what your customers are saying. And we have monitoring and analytics that help you do all that. So like I was saying, speech recognition and language understanding are the two core components that form Lex. Speech recognition is the capability to take voice input and convert that into text. Natural language understanding is the capability to take that text and figure out what the intent of that text is. And both these technologies are what power the Amazon Alexa and the Echo device. And that's the same that we've now put out as an AWS service for every developer so that you can build your own little bots that take either voice or text and will work on any platform like Facebook, Slack, mobile apps, IoT devices, so on. Multi-platform, so you could deploy your bots on mobile. So we have SDKs for iOS, Android. You could do Facebook, Slack, or Twilio right now, and we'll continue to add many more platforms as we move forward. On the web, you can deploy a bot so that when people come to your website, they have a little chat window through which they can chat with your bot. And it's deeply integrated with AWS Lambda, and you can deploy onto IoT devices as well. Design for builders. So this is a screen grab of the user interface. We've added a lot of features to make it easy for developers to build conversational bots. So at the top, you see that you can add some sample utterances, which is different ways in which a customer will interact with your bot. Then you can provide the different pieces of data that the bot would need in order to fulfill the intent of the customer. For example, this is a book a hotel where you need the location, you need the check-in date, you need the number of nights, and so on. And then the prompts for each of those slots that the bot can use in order to get that information. And I'll go in detail into what each of these does and the different capabilities. We also have confirmation prompts where you can ask if the user wants to go through with the transaction and actually book the ticket, because if people are spending a lot of money, you want to make sure that they've confirmed that they want to go through with the transaction. Also, in many bots, it's easy to say yes and keep going in the flow, but what if they say no? How do you recognize that, and how do you exit gracefully? That's a feature that we have as well. And you can test your bot from the console itself using both voice and text. We have integration with AWS Mobile Hub, so that once you build your bot, you can quickly go and download a mobile client that can access your bot and test it out. You can also connect to many enterprise applications like Salesforce, Zendesk, Microsoft Dynamics, Marketo, HubSpot, and QuickBooks. This is kind of a sample architecture for how you would do it. So the user will talk to the mobile app and say, hey, give me my top 10 customers from Salesforce. That text or voice comes to Amazon Lex, which understands the intent, and then passes that back to the mobile app saying, this is the intent. And then the mobile app is able to connect using SaaS connectors that we provide to the various enterprise backends, fetch the data, and return that back to the user. There's different ways you can configure this. You can also configure the business logic to be executed in Lambda behind Lex. So Lex does all the processing and then just returns the data to the mobile app. Or you could make the mobile app the center of your architecture and run the business logic from that app as well. Versioning and alias support. This is what I mean by enterprise ready. We understand that large enterprises will have multiple developers working on these problems. And it's important for them to be able to collaborate and work together as a team and not keep messing with each other's code. So you can maintain multiple versions. Also, you can set up dev staging and production using the aliases feature that we have. So your prod alias can always point to your most stable version, and then you can have a staging alias and a dev alias pointing to other versions. And as you keep improving your bot or the intent, you keep incrementing the version and pushing the versions to the prod alias. So you don't have to change all your clients. You can just switch out the version that the alias points to. Continuous learning. We provide enough reports for you to be able to track how many customers are using your bot, which intents are they invoking, as well as look at the missed utterances. What are customers saying to your bot? Which utterances am I able to understand and respond to, and which ones have I not been able to? And based on that, you should either be able to add those utterances to existing intents or build new intents to address those utterances, because you now found out a new need that your customers have. Here are some of the use cases in which you can use Lex bot. Informational bots, where you are asking for information like what's the weather, what's the score, so on. Application bots are more transactional use cases, where people are booking tickets, ordering food, managing their bank accounts, and so on. Enterprise productivity, where you're connecting to enterprise backends and helping your sales force or your marketing team or your product managers ask questions and be more efficient. IoT bots. So at reInvent, we really had a really cool demo from NASA where they were able to deploy a Lex bot onto a replica of the Mars rover. So that's one example of how you could deploy a bot on an IoT device. Some of the benefits of Lex are it's easy to use. You can get started with Lex in a matter of few minutes. We have sample bots that with one click you can include and quickly start testing. So that gives you a good idea of how a bot works, how does it flow, what do these different concepts mean, like prompts, intent, slots, and so on. High quality text and speech language understanding. Because of all the investment that we make in the Alexa and improving the accuracy of the Alexa backend, our customers benefit from all those improvements. Seamlessly deploy and scale. Like I was saying, very easy for you to put your bot onto various platforms like Facebook, Slack, and Twilio. Built-in integration with the AWS platform. A huge benefit of using Lex is you're on the AWS platform. So you're able to use Cognito for your security needs. We integrate with Mobile Hub, tightly integrate with Lambda so that you can write your business logic and just from a drop-down, just pick the right Lambda function on the Lex console. It's cost-effective because we want to make sure that it's accessible to all customers at scale. How do you build conversational apps using Amazon Lex? Before we get into that, I'd like to take a couple of minutes and go through some of the core concepts involved while building a bot. A bot or a conversational app is nothing but a collection of intents. An intent performs an action in response to a natural language user input. Right? So the example of an intent would be, I want to book a hotel. Right? What does the user want to do? I want to book a car. Tell me what the weather is. All these would be intents. Utterances. Utterances are the exact phrases that your customers are going to say. For example, in order to book a hotel, they could say that same phrase in many different ways. I would like to book a hotel. I want to book a hotel. Could you make a reservation, please? And so on. And Lex takes those sample utterances and then builds a model out of it. We'll talk more when we get to that section. And then there's slots. Slots are the pieces of data that you need in order to fulfill the intent of your customer. For example, if you book a hotel, you need to know what the location is, on which day, what the check-in time is, and so on. Fulfillment. Once you had the conversation, you collected all the data, you need to be able to run the business logic and actually make the booking, right, in the backend systems. And that's what we mean by fulfillment. Here's the flow of how a Lex bot processes user input. For example, the user says, book a hotel in New York City. The speech recognition will take that and convert that into text. Or if they're chatting, then we directly get the text input. The natural language understanding will use the intent and slot model that you build on the console or through the SDK to understand what the intent is. So it understands that, okay, hotel booking is the intent, and the user has provided the destination city, and it's New York City. Then figures out what else is missing, check-in date and check-out date, and then goes through the entire process. And at the end of it, Lambda is where the business logic will get run and the hotel booking actually gets done. And on the way back, we use Amazon Polly, which is our text-to-speech solution. It has 24 languages and 47 voices. And we'll talk a little bit about Polly at the end of this presentation. Slot elicitation. The interchange between Lex and the user is what we call as slot elicitation, where Lex is trying to get the information it needs from the user. For example, when they say, I would like to book a hotel, Lex responds with, sure, which city will you be traveling to, in order to get that destination city, and so on. So that's what we mean by slot elicitation. Conversation context. In order to have an engaging conversation with your users, you need to be able to maintain the context. Let's say they said, show me my sales report in the US East region. And then the next intent was, hey, tell me my top customers. In that case, they've already told you what region they're interested in. So you could respond back with, your top customers in the US East region are X, Y, and Z. And if they want to change the region, they will always have the option of saying, well, I want to know my top customers in the US West region. And then you run it with the US West, because now the new context that they provided has fresher data. And the developer has full control over this process of managing the context. Dynamic conversation flow. Many customers worry, how can I stay in control of this conversation? Let's say I decide to take the user to a completely different conversation in the middle of fulfilling an intent. How do I do that? With Lex, you're always in control, because we provide you a Lambda that can be invoked at every turn of the conversation. And using this Lambda, you can provide instructions to the NLU engine to either elicit a certain slot or shift to a different intent. For example, when you say dine in or take out, if they say take out, then you probably go to a different intent. If they say dine in, you stay in the current intent. We also have an ability to chain intents. For example, a customer just booked a flight ticket. You want to now ask them if they want to make a hotel reservation or a car reservation. You can do that declaratively on the Amazon Lex console. And if they say, no, I'm not interested, Lex will just exit gracefully and say, OK, thank you. Dialog management. Let's say your customer said, I would like to book tickets to New York City. But then, if you remember the screen where we showed all the different slots, New York City is the first slot that you're supposed to prompt the customer for. But because they already gave you the data, you should not ask them for that data in this use case. And that's where dialog management comes into play. It figures out what data has already been provided and appropriately prompts the user for the next piece of data that is required. Some customers may also give you the date, saying, book a flight to New York City on a certain date. In that case, dialog management will neither ask for the city, nor will it ask for the date. It'll go straight to which airlines or which category of airfare do you want me to book? Or is it a return flight? You can customize your conversations. So the Lambda that I spoke about, which gets invoked at every turn of the conversation, can also be used in order to do things like customization or personalization of the user experience. Let's say they said, I would like to book a hotel. You can say, would you prefer to stay in downtown this time as well? Because you know that last time they booked a hotel in the downtown area. And then you can also do things like validating user input, because you don't want to go through the whole conversation before figuring out that there's no hotels in that area on the date that the user specified. So you can quickly validate and get back to the user saying, sorry, we do not have availability on the 19th of April. Error handling. A very important part of having an engaging user conversation is to be able to handle errors. And you can declaratively specify the error message that your bot should use, as well as a hang up phrase after and also the number of times it should try providing that error message. You can also specify multiple error messages so that it doesn't sound like a bot. You don't want your bot to sound like a bot, right? You want it to sound as human as possible. So you can specify many different ways in which it can ask your user to repeat or provide more clarity. Rich messaging. We're seeing that bots are not just pure voice or pure text. Users also want to use touch because they're on their phones most of the time and are using popular chat platforms like Facebook Messenger, which provides a good touch-based experience for chatbots. And we provide integration with Facebook Messenger and also support for rich formatting right within the console. An important feature that we've added here is if you as a developer wanted to build rich formatting into your bots, you would need to learn the markup for Facebook Messenger. You would also need to learn markup for any other different platform that you want to build for example, for Slack or other platforms. We've come up with a common language using which you don't even have to put in code there. You can just, through the visual interface, design what your different images look like, what buttons you need on them, and then we'll figure out the markup behind the scenes, make sure the appropriate markups generated for the platform that you've deployed your bot on, and make sure that it appears in the right way on Facebook or Slack. For example, here, you would say, when your customer says, I would like to rent a car, say, sure, what type of car are you looking for? And you can make the experience so much richer by providing images of the various types of car. And they don't have to type in, I would like a compact or something like that. They can just click on the compact and it's done. So the interaction is so much faster and so much more convenient for your customers. And you can test these on the console as well. You can drag and drop the images, add buttons to it, and preview how those cards look. And when you deploy them, if it's on Facebook, they'll come up as a carousel where your customers can scroll through all the different options. If it's on Slack, they'll come up as buttons. So we take care of modifying the experience appropriately to make sure that it appears in a format that's suitable for the particular chat platform. Fulfillment. Like I was saying, we integrate deeply with Lambda. So for those of you who are not familiar, Lambda is our serverless programming capability where you just write the code and don't worry about scaling it. We take care of everything for you. Once you built your Lambda function, because we're integrated in Lex, you can just, from a drop-down, just pick the right Lambda function that you want in order to fulfill your business logic. But there are customers that already have this business logic. For example, if you have a mobile app today that's performing your business logic by just asking for the input on the mobile screen, you don't want to throw away all that logic, right? All you want to do is add a conversational interface. So we support that as well, where Lex will have the conversation and return all the data back to your mobile application, and then you proceed as you always proceed, because now you have the city, you know the date, you know all the other details, you just make the booking like you always do. So that's a really important feature for customers that have existing systems or are not yet familiar with the different capabilities that Lambda provides. Save, build, and publish. So just want to take a second and explain the different concepts that we use on the Lex console. When you save, you're just saving your data so that you don't lose it. Whereas when you build, you're actually creating a version of your intent, and also creating a model on the back-end speech recognition and NLU systems. And then when you publish, you're creating a new version of your entire bot, and you will be associating that version with a certain alias. So that's why I wanted to take a moment and explain the differences, because when you build, you're not creating a new version of your chatbot, you're building new versions of your intents and different slots. And then when you publish, you're creating a new version of your entire bot. And you can keep testing your bot right from the console after you build. But you can't test it when you save, because the model has not yet been built. That's an important difference between save and build. We also have SDKs using which you can build your bots. So you can add utterances, add slot values, and so on. So large customers or developers that want to maybe add 500 different utterances don't have to go to the console to enter all that data. They can just use our SDKs in order to create their bots on Lex. Predefined resources. For example, you wanted a slot to be able to take the name of a state or a country. Chances are there's thousands of other developers that have the same use case. That's the reason why we went out and built these pre-built slot types that all customers can use. So we have slot types for date, time, number, cities, first name, and so on, so that it simplifies the job for the developers. An important part about slot types with Amazon Lex are that the values that you specify, you can not only use the built-in, you can also create custom slot types. For example, if you are a car rental company, you can create a custom slot type for the type of car, right? Medium, economy, large, XL, whatever your different categories are. We do not limit the values that Lex can accept to the values that you specified there. It is just training data for the NLU engine. So many customers ask us, well, I want to collect, let's say, phone numbers or email IDs from my customer. How do I build a slot type for emails? So you do not have to provide every email in the universe in order to create that slot type, right? So you provide some samples, and then we use that as training data. So that's a very important point to note when you're creating your own slot types. Here's the different integrations that we have right now: Facebook, Slack, and Twilio. This is how the same bot would look on all the different surfaces. We've had good success in our preview phase, where a lot of really large customers have tried us and have given us positive feedback. So there's Capital One, Ohio Health, Infor, Freshdesk, Vonage, AHA, NASA, and HubSpot. Today, we're going to have Freshdesk as well as AHA come up on stage and talk about their use cases. Pricing. So Lex is priced at 75 cents per 1,000 text requests. And for speech, it's $4 per 1,000 speech requests. We also have a generous free tier. For text, it's 10,000 requests per month in your first year. And for speech, it's 5,000 per month in your first year. And this first year is with Lex. So even if you're an existing AWS customer for many years, we start your free tier from the time that you started using Lex. Here's kind of the architecture diagram of how Lex interacts with the various different components. Right? So you have what we call the build time and the runtime. So using the SDK, you could invoke Lex from the various endpoints like mobile, different chat platforms, web, IoT during runtime. You can also use the console and the APIs and SDKs we provide in order to build your bots on Lex. We also integrate with the entire AWS platform, so you could use Cognito for security and CloudWatch for alarms. Also, Mobile Hub to build your mobile client. For speech recognition and natural language understanding, we go to the Alexa backend. And we also integrate with Lambda in order to do both control the flow of your conversation, customize the conversation, as well, and do things like validating user input, and also to run your business logic. I'm going to spend a couple of slides on Amazon Polly, which is our text-to-speech service, which on the way back from Lex, if you want a voice output, you would use Amazon Polly. So it converts text to lifelike speech. It's a fully managed service. It has 47 voices in 24 languages, and it has very low latencies, and it's real time. With Polly as well, we have many customers that are using it and have provided us really positive feedback. Samsung, GoAnimate, WizKids, iTranslate, The Washington Post, and many others. We'll keep the Q&A for the end. I'd like to go into the presentation from one of our customers, Freshdesk. So please welcome Francesco Rovetta from Freshdesk. Thank you, guys.
Here we go. Good afternoon, everybody. Yeah, you hear me? There we go. All right. Good afternoon, everybody. How are you doing? I was sitting in front earlier, and I realized it's quite chilly out here. I hope everybody is awake. I noticed outside there is no coffee, and that's probably the temperature dropped here. Thank you, Vikram, for the introduction. Pleased to be here. I'm going to spend less than 10 minutes telling you a little bit about Freshdesk and what we have been doing over the last few weeks and what we announced today with Lex. Freshdesk is customer support software, typically the software that support agents have in front of them when they respond to customer inquiries. I lead alliances for Freshdesk. Freshdesk is a 6-year-old company. Since inception, we have been using AWS and growing our usage over time. We currently have about 100,000 customers in more than 145 countries around the world, with more than 1,000 employees in 5 locations. We are headquartered here in San Francisco. Freshdesk, as I mentioned, is B2B software that allows agents to leverage their powerful ticketing system to open, manage, track, prioritize, and close tickets originated from customer inquiries to ensure they get resolved. whether you're calling your network provider because the system is down, or you, as it might have happened last week, have some feedback for airlines about their service, the agent on the other side is recording your requests, your questions, your complaints, and does it in a very contextual manner. So the software has to be intuitive, easy to use, but comprehensive to allow the agent to be as accurate in their response and the service to you as possible. That's what our software does. And as the sophistication of channels that customers use to reach out to brand increases, software needs to be even more sophisticated. That's why Freshdesk manages all the customer conversations through different channels, whether it's a phone call originating from a customer, an email, a form from the web, coming from a mobile device, or through social media. It's very important for customers to be able to reach out to the brand wherever they are, however they want, and on the other side, for the agent to recognize where the customer is reaching out from in order to provide the most accurate, timely, and contextual information. Our mantra is really provide an end-to-end perfect experience journey. On one end, for the user of our software, typically the support agents, not only in terms of setup and use, but also for the customers who need to be able to be addressed, helped, supporting the journey to get anything solved in a very efficient and engaged manner. Here you have two snapshots of our software user experience. Again, what you see here is on your left side, the view of the different tickets as the agent is sorting through them. To the right, we drill down into one specific ticket. In yellow, you see in the right screenshot the question from a customer. The money has not been refunded yet. And drilling down the answers that the agents are providing ticket properties in order to categorize the ticket accordingly. What I want to highlight, it might be a little hard to see in the first screenshot to the left, next to each ticket, you have some little tags and colors and some icons that identify the source of that ticket, whether it's an email coming from a mobile device, it's a tweet, it's a blue one, for example. And that allows the support agent to provide as much contextual answer, response, and help to the customer as possible. Now, the fun part is with Lex. Because obviously what you've seen so far is an innovative way to answer customer responses, automated at rules. What we announced today is the power of Lex into what we call fresh bots. Smart bots, conversational bots, that combine the capabilities of Lex, automatic speech recognition, and natural language understanding with Freshdesk workflows, a rule engine, in order to automate how customer service is provided. FreshBots dive into the back end of its system to pull data from its knowledge bases, solution articles, data from user interactions, and several APIs in order to improve, to enhance the customer experience and provide as much automation as possible. The system, through the interaction of Lex and Freshdesk, validates the customer inputs, call remote APIs, does complex logical computations in order to enable personalized conversations. Our ultimate mission is to enable support agents to take very intelligent decisions to enhance the customer experience. And I want that to be visualized. I'm glad that Vikram actually walked you through a lot of architecture schemes because it simplifies my work greatly here. So Freshdesk and Lex enable users to interact with brands, with businesses, leveraging natural language. Obviously, from a business standpoint, the key advantage and impact is the productivity that comes from both ends of the spectrum. The agents on one end, the business, and the customers. They don't have to repeat the same questions over and over, validate their information. So on one end, the user is providing the input to the system. We're going to see it actually in the demo I'm going to show you in 30 seconds. Amazon Lex processes choose all this data, pushing it back to Freshdesk system with intent, as Vikram earlier described. Freshdesk ties that into the data which is available through its knowledge base, its application data, user data, and processes it through our machine learning services, pushes back to Lex, that then translates it into text to the customers. Simple, you say. Well, we did 2 demos. We prepared 2 demos for you today. In one case, we have an example of a car rental reservation. So a car rental company has configured a Freshdesk bot to automate the process of booking the car. The bot uses Amazon Lex natural language understanding along with Freshdesk contextual data to personalize the booking experience. The second example is the verification of a help desk performance. A supervisor, an administrator of a help desk, wants to understand the performance of his teams across the globe. And so interrogates the bot and the system to pull out highly visual and personalized reports. In this case, the bot uses natural language understanding from Lex, along with our rich data, the knowledge bases, to answer questions like, for example, what are my team's CSAT, customer satisfaction numbers? Let me dive into the demo. That will give you actually the best understanding of how we did it. Here we go. So what you see here is a mock-up website of a rental company. Pretty inspiring. So I wish we were all loading a coach and bus and go on the same road. What you see here to the right is chat. Is a chat window where the chat is, I hope you can see that, is asking me, what can I help you with? And through text, I'm going to tell them that I want to book a car. The system analyzing semantically what I've inputted here. And yes, they're ready to help me. So when do I want the car? Well, let's say it's sunny outside, so probably today, right away. And he asked me, what time? 9, 10 p.m.? Yeah, we can do it. There is a lot of snow in Tahoe, so we can probably enjoy the long weekend starting from tomorrow. And now the car is here. I wish I could order a Ferrari, but I think the options are kind of limited. As you have guessed, I'm originally Italian, so I have a skew towards fast cars, red cars. But let's go for an SUV. And what SUV would you like? Toyota, Nissan, or Audi? Well, let's go for Audi. It's more comfortable, faster. And he asked me, obviously, for identification, to get the confirmation or any kind of support, obviously, to populate also the interaction with the database, the CRM for further request. Let me do that. And they asked me for a phone number. All right, let's do that. There might be issues en route. Well, there are, but also what the system does is using this information to populate the system with my current location. And where do I need the car? In my current location. So through IP tagging and GPS geolocation, typically should be able to show a map, but I guess we got stuck into some translation. Well, you see it at the corner to the very high left, but it happens. Now, what I can also do with the system is inquire about insurance. Because you never know. You want to be sure. And what is telling me, the system is telling me, well, you're eligible for comprehensive coverage as part of my package. Deal done, so I'm ready to go. That's the first demo. I want to show you a second demo. What you see here is a view of a real help desk from Freshdesk, where we have an agent with a certain number of tickets, some unresolved, some overdue, some due today, some open. And so the administrator wants to know how its help desk is performing across the different teams, whether Europe, Middle East, the US, or Asia. And so he's asking me, what can I help you with? Well, let's check I want to know the health of my system. Now, what happens here is automatically the system is pulling data and triggering the visualization of a snapshot in the report section of the help desk of the current status of the help desk. So what you see is we have a good number of customers that are extremely satisfied. Some are in between, and a good number of red, distributed by region. I'm obviously a very thorough administrator, and so let's look at the US. What about the US? And the system in the back end is calling API, populating the screen and visualizing a report specifically for the US. Everything done through the text system. Same apply, obviously, if I want to populate Europe, which is the most concerning because it has the most red amongst the tickets that have gone unresolved. Now, what I want to do is go one step further, which means trigger an email, send an email, because I don't want my agents to sit idle and not respond to these angry customers right away. Send an email when a ticket is assigned to Europe. And what the system is doing wants first to ask me what the name of the rule, because what happens in the help desk is you're able to assign a certain automated rule or automatic rule, whereas if a ticket is coming from France, for example, I get immediately notified because I know that the French support agent is maybe on vacation or there is a long weekend. We're approaching May, as you know, in France, May is a little tricky vacation-wise. And so I want to be alerted of that right away. And so I set a rule. So let's call that rule European assign notif. And what the system is doing is immediately opening the administration panel, and at the very bottom you see that the rule has been automatically created into the system. So I want to give you a snapshot of two use cases, very different use cases. One, more consumer-facing. The other one is B2B, but extremely relevant, that touches into the very core of our help desk. I switch back to my original presentation to wrap it up. Thank you. I encourage everybody, those especially who are developers, we have a good set of documentation APIs on our website that can be used and leveraged to build connectors, integrations, do magic on top of Freshdesk. And in particular, we just revamped our app gallery where all these integration and connector can be dynamically marketed. I'll be here for the next 20, 30 minutes, so I welcome any questions that you have. Thank you very much.
Is this on? Hello, hello. Oh, OK, we're on. Hi, everybody. My name is David Whitty. I'm the Director of Innovative Solutions for the American Heart Association. And we're here today to talk about a use case we did. It's live as of today on one of our sites in a limited capacity. And I hope some of this resonates. We've seen some use cases with a lot of scenarios that y'all may have. I've worked exclusively in the nonprofit technology my whole career. I don't know, is there anyone here that works in the nonprofit vertical at all? Are we represented? A little bit, okay. So some of y'all understand the slightly different flavor of nonprofit, and then if you're not, you don't understand what's a little different. So example, my team, and you'll see some of the scope and scale of who we deliver to, 2 guys. That's kind of what it means to work in the nonprofit technology. And 2 really, really brilliant guys, but still 2 guys to deliver these solutions. So that's why the AWS, with its sort of solutioning on demand and rapid deployment, is so essential to us. We need to work efficiently, we need to work fast. This is our mission, and I'm going to give you some context to how we got to our solution on Lex. To build healthier lives free of cardiovascular diseases and stroke. That's it. Nice, clean, simple. That's our mission. That's what we do. A lot of stuff packed into those words, however. A lot of deliverables into that. A little bit on who we are and what we do. So we're the oldest and largest voluntary organization in the nation. Started in 1924 by 6 cardiologists. That's significant. We'll talk about that. And we fund innovative research. We have an advocacy wing. We fight for health policy from the civic to the federal level. And we also have lots of tools and programs out there to enrich people's lives and make them live healthier lives. A couple facts to give you some context around what we're doing. Since 1949, we've funded more than $4 billion in research as an organization. Had 13 scientists that the AHA has provided funding to that have earned Nobel Prizes, 9 of which we wholly or partially funded the research that won the Nobel Prize. And our ECC program, which is CPR, getting it in schools, annually we train about 18 million people a year. Healthcare professionals, general public, first responders, everybody. So there's some of the things we do. It's a very, very small sample set. We're a huge umbrella organization. To fund all that $4 billion in research that you saw, the main way we do this, one of the significant ways we do this as a nonprofit is fundraising. It's a huge part of our organization. And Heart Walk is our flagship event. We have 300 of those a year, over 1 million participants a year in our walks, and they bring in about $130 million and about $1.6 billion since their inception. So a significant amount of that research that we fund, and those Nobel Prize winners and all that, comes from our fundraising efforts. Heart Walk is really one of our biggest fundraising efforts. So the challenge that was presented to us, it's across the entire organization, but in this context, specifically around fundraising and the event, is as the world's rapidly changing, constantly rethinking, we're asked to constantly rethink our traditional approaches to delivering solutions that reach people at the pace they live their lives every day. And that probably resonates across a lot of things beyond just nonprofit. But we have, our CEO, Nancy Brown, infuses this innovative push, get there kind of philosophy across the organization. We want to stay ahead of the curve. We want to stay relevant, and we want to reach people where they are and be a relevant part of their lives. Specific to Heart Walk, where this use case came up, with my group, that particular line of business will bring some goals they have through lots of brainstorming. And those are the goals you see right there. They wanted to adapt to the changing workforce, increase engagement, et cetera. So this is the kind of thing we're handed to say, what can we do from a technical perspective to help the business achieve its goals? Obviously, the first thing you think of is user experience. That's a big part of when you think of engagement, increasing engagement, adaptation to the workforce, things like meeting people where they are. But specifically, we use this term a lot, frictionless user experience. We have user experience today. We've got web forms, we've got different sorts of things. Could we say they're frictionless? I don't know. And then specifically for us, and specifically to Heart Walk, the priority is on registration. So our registration process, that's the front door. If folks don't register for the event to participate, everything else is moot after that. You've got to get them registered, and you've got to get them engaged, and before everything else comes into play. So registration process is probably a use case that we see we all registered for this event. So here was our approach. We looked at our current registration process, and just, it wasn't hard to say that's decidedly not frictionless. You've got 6 phases you can see up there. Some of those are 13 questions deep across there, and manually completed on your basic web form. Now, one aspect of this is, well, optimization efforts around that can help with this. And that's true, we do that, of course. We look at web optimization best practices. But to me, that's not the whole story. You can only do web optimization to a point where you run into, and maybe a lot of folks have seen this experience, there's legitimate business cases that say, I want all these fields. You've got the other camp that's like, let's just ask them for a mobile phone number and be done with it, get them in quickly. You usually end up somewhere in the middle. So that wasn't it. And the story we were talking about the other day, so back when I was at University of Texas, one of my professors there, still Bruce Porter, great guy, and I think he's the chair of the CS department now. I don't know if anybody in here went to University of Texas. All right, somebody other, yeah. So freshman level classes are these huge cattle calls. Maybe it's the same in other major universities. Very unpleasant experience as a student. I can assume even more unpleasant to teach or administer. So Dr. Porter had, when he was new to the university, either volunteered or was voluntold to teach this entry-level class. And he was telling me later, the thing that really got to him the most was day after day, time after time, students would come with the printout of their homework assignment and say, I don't understand. And what he'd do is he would just take it and go, okay, and he'd read it back to them. He wouldn't change any content at all. All he'd do is add a little inflection and just read it back to them verbatim. And they go, oh, now I understand. So his idea was he was going to build this floating, disembodied head in a bubble to just read the experiences back to them, which is pretty prophetic, right? It's kind of what we're talking about right now. And so that's why optimization to us wasn't really the answer. If you think about the process of reading a question, comprehending the question, thinking of your answer, and then typing that answer in, that's a frictional event. Do that 13 times, 6 by 6. So that's why we had to find something else. And the introduction of natural language was what we thought eliminated the need to read. That increases comprehension. And then you can speak back to the, in this case, the bot. So 3 out of those 4 frictional points we've addressed. You still got to think of what you're going to say, but 3 out of 4. However, we did not want a device-specific solution, and we didn't want an app. Early on, I've been working on this issue, me and my team, for about a year now. And we got into, the first place we thought with natural language was a lot of telecom technology. You hear a lot of speakers say ASICs. Went down that road. There's some great stuff out there, but it required you to build an app to deploy the solution. And it kind of was silly to say, we're going to have our folks download a mobile app just so they can then register for HeartWalk using their voice. It wasn't an efficient thing. We tried some other platforms. We worked on those for a while. We kind of hit some brick walls, and then through some serendipitous things, we met Harshal and the Lex team, and they've been great. We've been working on that platform ever since, and made a lot of progress since then. So that's where the voice-activated bot technology came in. The reason it's, I've stated some of these already. It's a browser-based solution. That gets rid of the need for end users to, you can, I'm sure, bake things into an app, but you don't have to. So that was huge for us. The participants just add their details as they would through natural language. We could deploy different decision trees in there. I think we saw some of those in the Fresh Test example too. We've even rethought some of our logic by doing this. We realized, you know what, we're asking that question too far upstream, and if we did it here, we wouldn't have to actually make that question that way. We could use their email address for this or that. So it's been good for that. We've actually made our process more efficient. It's integrated with TeamRaiser. TeamRaiser is the software we use for peer-to-peer fundraising. So they have open APIs, so it tells you that any third-party software with a good, robust set of APIs is possible to work with. And then the other thing for us, we had to have an opt-in. We require an opt-in at the end of our process, so we were able to enable that within the bot. And then there's a confirmation at the end, which I think we talked about fulfillment. So here's a little bit of our architecture. The folks can engage the bot either on a laptop or on a mobile device or whatever. That's the important part of us. No app required, just on a web page. Lex recognizes that the registration has been initiated, goes and asks the series of questions, talks to Lambda, which is really the key to all this, the fact that we can have the bot do work. The Lambda integration is really what allows us to not just do a Q&A type scenario, but actually take that information, digest it, and turn around and do real work with it. So that's huge. And then the open APIs into our fundraising system, writes that, registers the user, and that could kick out a confirmation email at the end. So this is really the entire registration workflow, but now it's voice-enabled, chat-enabled, or the person could opt and use the old web form if they wanted to, but we're hoping that this is going to be a much better experience for the end user. So here's a little demo. Don't have a live demo of ours. We put it on our Denver walk site today. Went live in a sort of a limited capacity. We're going to expand that more as we go forward. The bot is activated. You can see there on the left. Voice activated, goes through the series of questions, and then at the end, and actually I took this screenshot a little early, too early in the process, it gives the end user a summary, and that was important to us to kind of have that verification point, and you don't necessarily have to verify after every answer. That could get really cumbersome and annoying for the end user. So we do it at the end, and what's not here that exists today is there's a question that says, would you like to edit any of this information? If they say yes, it asks, what would you like to edit? Email. Takes you back to email. You fix that, edit that or change it. It'll confirm it again, ask you if you say no, it moves on. And then we've got the opt-out piece right there, and I can see the developers were having some fun with my goal at $45,000. So that's good. So anyway, and after that, it gives you the confirmation that the process is complete, and then the system on the back end sends you the confirmation email. So we've taken what was a very frictional interaction with the participant to manually fill out a web form. We've turned it into maybe a minute process that's all done through natural language. They get the confirmation, they get all the same questions asked, and they're on their way. So thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you all for coming. Sorry we ran a couple of minutes late, but we'll hang out here to answer Q&A. So if you have questions, come over. We'd be happy to answer more questions. Thank you.